Next up, we have a really exciting panel discussion on sustainability from a retail and consumer perspective. And to moderate this discussion, I have the pleasure to introduce Teresa Arbuckle, who's the Managing Director for Beko in UK and Ireland. Now, for context, Beko supplies appliances to out of 4 homes in the UK and strives to support millions of households to adapt to sustainability. So today we'll hear more about what consumers expect and how can the industry address these expectations. Now, over to you, Teresa.
Thank you, Seb. Thanks, Gabrielle. It was great to see the guys in the factory in Arctic. Arctic is another brand of the group, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. We're going to move from a factory conversation to more of a consumer and retailer conversation. And again, we're hoping that we can inspire some of the hackathoners that are going to be going for the weekend with ideas and insights that will help you come up with sustainable ideas, products, services for the future. And I'd love to introduce my panel to you now. We want to talk to you about the perspectives which will make sustainability easier for consumers to adapt to a new normal. First, we have Moira Thomas. She's the Director of Group Sustainability and ESG at Currys, one of the largest electrical retailers in the UK and many other countries. We have Paul Hyde, who's the CEO of AMDIA. AMDI is the trade association for small and large domestic appliances in the UK. And last but not least, Richard Morris. He's the CEO of IPG Media Brands, a major advertising, consulting, and marketing network. Welcome to you all.
Hi there.
I'd also like to thank Richard before we start off. We're in a beautiful studio, live in London, in the center of London, at the Old Bailey. And it's been made possible through the generosity of Richard and his team here at Media Brands. Thank you, Richard.
Pleasure to have you.
Great. So as we said, we're going to shift to a conversation around retailers and consumers. These are places where choices are made every day, stores, homes, online. These are choices that people can make, and we want to share with you some of the places where you could find some inspiration. I just want to give a brief introduction on healthy living on a healthy planet. Why Beko? Well, as Seb said, Beko is a large appliance brand in many countries, over 130 countries. We're the 3rd largest brand in Europe, number 1 in the UK, number 1 in Poland and in Turkey, and in South Africa, which we'll touch on in a minute. And our group company believes that we need to do something to make sure the planet is here for years to come. We have a goal to reduce our carbon emissions by 50% by 2030. And this is in order to achieve the less than 1.5 degrees so that the world keeps going. 80% of those emissions, the Scope 3 as they're called, come from the actual product use after the product has been produced. And when it comes to knowing about talking to consumers, because we're a global company, we talk to consumers all over the world about how they're feeling, what they're thinking about. And I'd love to share some research results from a poll that was done by OnePoll earlier in the year with 2,000 UK adults. These are 3 statistics which you might find interesting. 59% of these UK adults think about environmental issues affecting our planet weekly. So clearly all the media that we're seeing about the planet is having an effect. It's making people think. But a statistic that's not so great, nearly a third, 29% of Brits, are in denial when it comes to environmental issues. And they hope that the problem will go away on its own, which unfortunately is probably not going to be the case. 8 out of 10 UK adults are stopped from giving up actions and activities they know are bad for the planet because of a lack of a better alternative, or the alternative is too expensive. So 8 out of 10 say they would do something, they would buy something that was better, but either they don't know about it, it's not available, or it's too expensive. So here's an opportunity for us to really make a difference. We want to start off the panel discussion with a conversation around circular economy. We're going to move it away from factory and more about where do consumers come up in it. And we want to help with the understanding of what it actually means and where does a circular economy come as it relates to a product. So we know, and we've all felt this way, when you buy something new, it's fantastic. And many of us are driven, particularly in technology-based products, to get the latest and greatest, the latest upgrade. And one of the other things that happens with products when you buy them, more so than in the past, we don't tend to repair them as often. Maybe it's a hassle, maybe the cost is too high, maybe we just think, why bother, we'll get the new one. But it actually means that in many instances, the normal life of a product is curtailed, and that product could be in someone's home for a lot longer. Computers, mobiles, TVs, refrigerators are all examples where the latest demand for the product leads to consumers discarding them before the end of life. And as we know, one of the biggest impacts of carbon emissions is post-sale to the consumer. And as a result, the longer we can keep products in, the more recyclable they are, the better the circular economy will be. So we want to think about ways to encourage them to consider repair instead of replace, finding a safe path to second life so that those products get repaired and used somewhere else, ensure that they're responsibly recycled and making it easy for consumers to do that. And all of this is going to be a seismic change in consumer behavior from the way that many of us act now. So it's going to need to be driven by all the key stakeholders who can make it happen. So with that as a small introduction, I'd like to turn over to Moira. What can retailers do, Moira?
Great question to get us started. I'll give some context first to Currys. So we're a leading omnichannel retailer. We're operating in the UK and Ireland, but also under the Elkjøp brand in the Nordics and the Kotsavlos brand in Greece, through our stores and online across more than 800 stores in 8 countries. So, as you say, leading the way and leading in those markets. But it's not just that we are that leading omnichannel retailer, it's also our vision that is so inspiring and that drives us. Our vision is to help everyone enjoy amazing technology. And you talked already about how much we love new technology, and we don't want to feel guilty when we're buying it either. And after all, technology helps keep us connected, entertained, healthy. There are so many benefits to technology. But on the other hand, we know that e-waste is an increasing problem. It's the fastest growing waste stream. So we can't be a throwaway society. And for Currys, we really understand that, and it's really important to us. And with that vision in mind, what we talk about is that we want to give technology longer life. So all those things that you mentioned, repair, reuse, we've got fantastic capabilities in our business, and we're so proud of them. We perhaps don't talk about them enough. If I start with repair, for example, in Newark here in the UK, we've got the largest repair centre in Europe. And the skills and the capabilities of our colleagues there to take products, to repair them, to help customers find parts so that they can be repaired at the repair centre by our trained specialists. But we've also trained them up so that they can speak directly to customers. We've got a repair live service, for example, focused on laptops, where customers can get in touch and those specialist engineers can help think through what are the problems, how could it be repaired. Beyond repair, we're also helping with reuse and with recycling as well. So across our group, we recycle over 100,000 tonnes of e-waste every year, something we're incredibly proud of. And as I say, it's not just recycling it, it's thinking about harvesting the parts from that as well. So some stats for you. We've got 11 million customers with care and repair plans. We made 2 million repairs just last year alone across our group. I've already mentioned the e-waste, 100,000 tonnes across the group. We sell over 250 used and refurbished products last year. So lots of great things that all play to that circular economy model that you showed earlier. And there's a piece in all of that for consumer awareness and engagement as well. We ran a campaign not that long ago called Cash for Trash. Really catchy title to kind of just better promote the fact that these items can be recycled, can be reused. And there's a great picture of Lindsay Hazelhurst, our Chief Operating Officer, who is standing at our London pop-up recycling that we did to help with this consumer awareness, to help customers realise that they could bring their items to Currys, of course. There are other ways too, but for those items to be kept in use. Through that Cash for Trash campaign that we ran for a month, we collected 10 double-deckers worth of weight of appliances, so we saved that 120 tonnes from going to landfill. So this is what we mean by kind of giving technology longer life. This is sustainability for us. But we know that we can't do it alone. It's not just about retailers. So an example there is last year we joined the Circular Electronics Partnership, which is about bringing together manufacturers, retailers, for example, to help with this issue of thinking about the circular economy specifically for the electronics industry.
Fantastic, Moira. So cash for trash, long live tech, long live your tech. Those are really catchy slogans that hopefully will help inspire consumers on doing what we're saying, trying to extend the life and make it a pleasant thing to do.
Yeah, and there was another I really loved, which was old for gold.
Old for gold.
Yeah, loved that one.
That's really good.
Thanks.
Thank you. Paul, how about the manufacturers that are involved in this? What's your perspective?
Thanks, Teresa. Well, I think there's two things that manufacturers have got to focus on, and one is around product innovation, and the other one is around customer education and information. And I think it's fair to say that we're not starting from a zero base here. There's lots of great work done across all brands. I mean, Beko is just one example of a brand really focused on sustainable product production and servicing and repair. But from an innovation perspective, and designers have got to think about how you design a product so it can be easily repairable. It's not just about product performance, product reliability, product energy efficiency. It's important thinking when you're designing a product. How do I ensure that as much as possible, within the other parameters that I've got to consider, that a product can be easily repairable? Mm-hmm. Is it of modular design? Can engineers access the critical components to repair them? Can it be done in a cost-efficient way so that a customer will consider a repair and extending the product life and not just throw it away? I mean, one example is making often used spare parts readily available. We don't want to see products thrown away because a door handle can't be found or a door seal cannot be obtained. So sometimes it's the little things that can make a big difference on product sustainability. And I think the other thing is then educating customers about what those options are so that people do know that they've got some choices, that they can have a repair. They know where to go, so manufacturers are providing information on how you consider repair, where your service agents might be, what sort of parts are readily available. So we give those people an informed choice. And certainly at AMDEA now within the UK, we're setting up a campaign around the banner of Know What's What. And this is really just to help customers make informed choices, to help them buy the right appliance, use it the right way, how they can repair and extend the life of appliances. And then when we inevitably get to the end of life, how they can ensure it's collected and responsibly recycled.
Thank you. So you're suggesting some of those inspired designers out there might be able to look at eco-design, ways of making the products more modular, more easily taken out of the product to be able to make it repairable.
Yeah, I think it's a great opportunity for budding designers and engineers to really think about that challenge. Performance has got to improve, energy efficiency has got to improve, but if you can also ensure modular design, repairability, and easy disassembly at a product's end of life, that's really adding a lot of value to the whole product cycle.
Thank you, Paul. That's great. Richard, how about you? What do you think about how we're going to affect those consumers with the advertising and marketing expertise that you hold?
Yeah, I think the major opportunity, but also the major challenge, is how we normalise the behaviour of not buying new. If we can get to research shows if we can get to a tipping point, about 30% of people adopting a behaviour, then we will reach the masses after that. So we look into behavioural economics and a very simple principle that people do what they see other people doing. And if we can harness this, we can potentially reach that tipping point. So a good example would be a water authority in Australia who started printing the average street consumption of water on bills. So each household saw how they were performing against the street, and that had a very positive impact on reducing water usage. In the space of gamification, there's a hotel in Scandinavia that publishes the league tables of each room on how good they are at not getting their towels washed. So you're kind of letting the room down if you want your towels washed each time. So those sort of principles are very powerful in this space. Then we go into the challenge that the brands have, and we have spent the last 100 years in advertising convincing people to buy new. And I think there's a real inherent tension between this kind of hardwired commercial imperative of producing new units and the circular economy. But there are some really exciting things that are happening. I think Moira's example from Currys of really being proud of all the repair that's being done is a great example. But also what that tends to do, and we can see it in other brands, is when you behave with less self-orientation, trust in that brand goes up. So again, there is a long-term benefit to promoting the circular economy. And the most well-documented example is Patagonia, that spends significant advertising dollars not promoting people to buy new apparel, but to get their existing apparel repaired. And then I think IKEA are a great exponent in this space as well. They've done lots of buyback initiatives. They've dedicated store space to sell second-hand goods. And hopefully this advertisement will demonstrate what they're doing from a real creative perspective in terms of the circular economy.
You had the better hold on to what you got. You had the better hold on to what you got. 'Cause if you think nobody wants it, just throw it away, and you will see someone will have it before you can count. 1, 2, 3. Yes, they will. Yes, he will. Yes, she will. Yes, she will.
That was great. Thank you, Richard. I want to check out the trash collection myself. I hope it comes to the UK soon. We're going to turn now to our second focus area, which is talking about product innovation and highlighting some really good ideas, hopefully to inspire those folks out there around the products and services that can make a big difference in reducing carbon emissions. As we said, 80% of carbon emissions is happening in the lifetime usage of the product, not in earlier stages of production necessarily. And we just wanted to share with you a couple of ideas, because it's not all about appliances, a couple of ideas that promote circularity of materials. You see on the screen here fishing nets that are used in floor mats in the car industry. Also, we've got gold that's been recovered from circuit boards used by the Royal Mint to create coins and metal bars. And lastly, plastic recycled from old fridges also being used in ventilation systems. So it is possible, and there are lots of different ways that we can look at recycling old plastics and putting them into new products as one of the ways to try and help to create a different product in the future. I've got one other example for you before we then turn back to the panel. It's actually something that I think it really encapsulates some of the creativity we're hoping for from the weekend. This product this TV advertisement showcases a great product with the latest technology that is also good for the planet. So it comes from DeFi, which is our #1 brand in South Africa. And this product is a fridge freezer that's a hybrid. So it obviously uses electricity to be running, but it is solar paneled. So as much as possible of the electricity is coming from solar panels in the home. So a great innovation in and of itself. But what's really sweet about the ad is it makes it clear that it's good for the planet, but it's also good for the pocket. And as most of us are going to be experiencing inflation and energy price increases, helping consumers about saving money from their energy efficient products is another way to try and help with coming up with great sustainable stories, because it's going to be more important to people in the next few years. And what's sweet about the ad is it does it in a fun and funny way, and it inspires consumers to make a good choice as opposed to making them feel ashamed or making them feel scared about how the world's going today. So here it is.
Ooh, 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 ooh. Oh, styler, styler, oh, styler, styler. Okay, let's do it like this. Money dance, ah yes. Shining on, I'm feeling way fresh. Shining on, I'm feeling way fresh. Shining on, I'm feeling way fresh. Money dance.
Save every time the sun shines. Our incredible new fridge freezer range is a hybrid of solar and electrical power. DeFi, believe in better.
So, on to the panel. Paul, let's start with you this time. What are your thoughts about product innovation and where your manufacturing association can help?
Well, for me, one of the key things, Teresa, is how we do more as an industry to promote the environmental impact of our behaviours when we use appliances, and how, in many cases, lots of small things we could do would make a very big difference. You know, we've seen a massive strides in product innovation in the last 10 years, particularly with view to energy and water consumption. I mean, the average fridge freezer now, the average washing machine uses 40% less electricity than it did 10 years ago, or about 35-40% less water on a cycle. However, that's based on using the eco settings that most appliances, certainly washing machines, dishwashers and etc. use. However, we've also done research that shows only about 10% of us at home actually use the eco settings. We often tend to pick the faster setting, you know, to get things done quickly. And sometimes, you know, through a lack of understanding, we believe that actually because something happens more quickly, it probably uses less water and less electricity because it's not running for so long. But of course, this isn't true. So actually, what we have got to do is help customers understand really the impact each time they run a cycle on a machine. And I think there's ways through innovation that perhaps my appliance could tell me specifically when I'm setting it up, hey, you know, do you realize, you know, use the eco setting, do you realize what that saves? Or maybe every time I switch it on, it should default to the eco settings. So if I want to do something different, I've got to make that actual interaction to change the way the appliance works. And I think these are very important now. You know, we've also done research that shows customers are increasingly receptive to understanding how they can make a difference, how they can help their homes use less energy, less water, so move towards that net zero carbon home. So more than ever, now is the time to educate customers, to nudge their behaviour a bit on, you know, getting the most efficient use out of the appliances they're buying and using today. And I think that's really, really important.
Yeah, and I remember when I joined the company, I had to be explained about eco setting and the fact it's more of a marathon than a sprint. A bit like the car industry back when petrol was such a big deal. They would explain that if you were speeding, you were actually inefficiently using the petrol. You were wasting petrol as you were going faster and faster. So that those links are really hard, or we haven't done a good enough job of educating people on that, have we?
No, exactly. And if you just take the UK for an example, I mean, there's 130 million large appliances out across 29 million UK homes. So you just think that most of those appliances are being used either every day or several times a week. So if you could reduce the energy and water consumption of 130 million appliances by 40-50% just by using different settings, you know, that would make an amazing difference on the amount of finite resources we're consuming. You then multiply that globally, you know, you can see that individual small actions can actually make a really huge difference.
Yeah, and I think you all saw that the coverage last week about vampire appliances. So the fact that at the source of electricity, a lot of people keep the plug open, the outlet open, and in fact that's a huge drain on electricity while no one's using the product, the TV, the radio, any of it. And that we need someone out there, some creative mind, to come up with a way of stopping it at source, but still allowing standby in some guys to work.
Exactly. So there's innovative solutions or AI type solutions that will ensure that appliances, even if they have to run like a fridge, are running at the absolute minimum they need to run when the door's not being opened, or appliances that are used only a handful of times a week, they're really in an almost zero energy usage when they're not actually being operated. And certainly that it's possible to do that.
Right. Thank you, Paul. Moira? Any thoughts about
Great.
curries and product and?
Yeah, it's such a rich debate, and I love the point that you made about how the small changes can make a big difference. And if I kind of give some context and some numbers from Currys, I think it'll really build on that. So I'm really proud that at Currys we've got a net zero emissions target, so we'll be net zero by 2040. It's quite a bold ambition, and when I start to unpack some of the numbers, you'll really see why. So we think first about our own operations, what's called Scope 1 and Scope 2 emissions. So it's our stores, it's our distribution, for example. That comes to sort of 35,000 tonnes of emissions, which is significant. But then we start to think about our value chain, so the products that we have manufactured, that we sell, and then them being used. And when you look at all of that, and we've calculated our data for a number of years, and Scope 3 for the last 2 years, we can see that the products in use is 23 million tonnes per year. So 35,000 on one hand for operations, 23 million from the products that we sell across our group being used by customers. So it's enormous. Climate change is the greatest challenge. So that's a real data-driven decision for us, that we have to think about those products in use and what we can do as a retailer. And there's a multi-pronged approach. So it is thinking about how those products are made and how they can be more efficient, for example, so working with our suppliers. It's also thinking about our customers and how we sell the products and make them aware of the features that the product has in the selling journey, in store or online, for example. And a great way that we're doing that in the UK is our Go Greener campaign, where we pull together a campaign that really highlights the products that we sell, the features that they have, and how that helps save water, energy, reduce waste, for example. We've recently run one of these campaigns for over 10 weeks, and the sales from that particular campaign were sort of a share of 20% in some of the categories, and a 2% increase on last year. So it's really great that we're seeing that customers are wanting to buy these products, and that by helping them kind of understand how it can help them. I love the phrase you used earlier about better for the planet and better for your pocket. It is so true. It's that win-win that consumers are really looking for. And in doing all of this, I suppose, take it back to the bigger picture. Climate change is the biggest crisis that we're looking at right now, and we have to think about how we can all reduce our impact, how we can adapt to a changing climate, and ultimately, in the words of the IPPC, create a livable future for us all.
Thank you. Thanks, Moira. Richard, any thoughts about where you come in, marketing, advertising, consumer behaviour?
Yeah, I think in keeping with Beko and Currys, all of our clients are really focusing on sustainable practices across the supply chain. Obviously, that includes Scope 3, which is where advertising and marketing comes in. And we've come to a simple understanding that we can't do things alone, and it's better together as an industry. So in the UK, the advertising industry has come together through the Advertising Association and created AdNet Zero, which is our determination to reach a genuine net zero position by 2030. And we have a 5-point plan, and one of those points is about focusing on the media plan. And we've co-funded a carbon calculator, and this we use to score and to evaluate various media channels, be that broadcast or mobile, cinema, digital, and being able to advise clients on how to manage the emissions and the carbon position from a plan. The other exciting opportunity that is presented to us is through digital and data. So traditionally, the way media would broadcast, you might reach millions of people with a single advert. However, there's an acknowledgement that a lot of that is audience wastage, which has often been looked at economically, but now we can see that there is a sustainability implication of that. New technology and working with partners like Axiom, we're able to define really focused, high-value audiences, and then using new media technologies, we can serve advertisements simply to individuals based on their value, and by doing so we reduce wastage and reduce the carbon footprint of the advertising industry. So there's lots of exciting things happening in that space. One of the things that I'm really proud of that we've developed here at Media Brands through our out-of-home specialist rapport is an air purifying billboard, which we launched in the US and we're bringing over to the UK now. So we treat and paint our out-of-home sites using titanium dioxide, and that titanium dioxide actually improves air purity. So in that sense, advertising is being a force for good to the environment.
I love that. I like one of those billboards outside my home. That would be fantastic. Thank you. Fantastic ideas and creativity from the panel. I think we've got time for one question, two questions if we're lucky, from the audience. We have one from Anonymous Armadillo, which I like the name. I'm hoping this is going to be a very creative person. What is the panel's recommendation on replacing old, inefficient appliances with newer, more efficient appliances? Buy new efficient or keep old inefficient?
Do you want me to start on that one?
I think that's
I think it's a very interesting point, and we've seen a lot of stories in the UK with media celebrating people of their fridge is still going after 50 years, which from an engineering perspective is fantastic. But wow, from an energy efficiency perspective, it's pretty terrible. That fridge will probably cost more to run than a new one would cost to buy in 12, 18 months. But I think in terms of, to answer the question, what we've got to be able to do is allow customers to make that comparison. When do you get to that point in time that the running cost of your current appliance is more than offset by the cost of a new appliance? And that's about understanding what it costs me to run my current appliance, and things like smart metering can help you understand that. And then the information now, and if you look across Europe, the product labelling gives that sort of information to help people make that informed choices. And then the other thing we've got to do as an industry is when that old appliance is disposed of, that it's collective, it's responsibly recycled. So operations like Currys, have got that closed loop system that will ensure that it does not end up in landfill and all the valuable materials can be reused. But there always becomes a point in time when, yes, from an environmental perspective, it's the right time to change.
That's great. And one last one. So someone says, you talked about products. What about packaging? It's a fair comment. Moira, would you like to take that one?
Yeah, it is a fair comment. And I think packaging is one of the issues that we see our customers kind of really get sort of drawn into. They want to understand how we're minimising impact because they take the product packaging home with them. So yeah, I think it's a good question. If we think about what we've done, then actually it's a balance between removing packaging where it's not needed. So when you think about the products that we're retailing, for example, over the last couple of years, we've taken away 3 million individual pieces of plastic packaging. So that's phenomenal. That's a great start. But again, it has to be balanced. So in some instances, it's right to take the packaging away. But in other instances, if you reduce too much, you'll start to incur product damage, either before the customer's got the product or on the way home. So it's absolutely a balance. So we're doing what we can as a retailer, and manufacturers are doing the same too, to think about the packaging in the distribution before it gets to retailers like us.
Yeah, and I think also packaging, which is already recycled, using recycled plastic in packaging helps us all feel like we're trying to get there. At the end of the day, this is going to be a journey, isn't it? And what we found from some of the consumer research we did, as long as we're on the journey, as long as we as responsible advertisers, retailers, manufacturers are trying to get there and taking really big leaps getting there, it's rewarded with consumers wanting to buy those products and use those services more. So we hope that this has been a good panel discussion that inspires much more creative and innovative people who are out there today on the hackathon to have a great weekend. And I thank the panel again for a great conversation. Back to you, Seb.
Great. Thank you very much, Teresa. Much appreciated. Really, really insightful panel and discussions, as well as some of the little questions at the end as well, which I think would be great for all of you watching at home. It's now time for us to move to our lunch break. Before that, wanted to mention a couple of housekeeping rules as well with regards to timing. We'll be back here at 12:45 UK time for our learning stage for all of the participants for some workshops. Also, for all of you viewers, we will be back at 7 p.m. UK time for some networking on Hopin. So make sure that you can come back on the Hopin platform around 7 p.m. for some networking time. And then for all of you, tomorrow morning, we will be back at 9 a.m. UK time on the platform for the rest of the hackathon. So we'll see you back here at 12:45 and enjoy the afternoon.